Hello and welcome. Hi, I'm Dave, and today we're talking about pure functions. What are pure functions, how to write pure functions, and how they will benefit your code. Let's get started. Today we're looking at pure functions. And pure functions are a part of the functional programming paradigm. That's a way of thinking about programming. And you might ask, why write pure functions? Well, first of all, they result in clean code. Second, they're very easy to test. And third, they're easy to debug. Fourth, they're decoupled and independent. That is, they're not married to the rest of your application, and that makes it easy to break those out. And since you can break those out, they could be added to your utility functions because they're not specifically tied just to the one program. So they're very independent. Rules for pure functions, and they only have a couple of rules really. The first one is the same input needs to always give the same output. And we can definitely see that in mathematics. And so that's a way to think about that. When you give an add function 2 and 2 as the two parameters or arguments, then it should always add it up to 4. The second rule is there should be no side effects, and we'll talk about side effects in a minute, but first let's break the rule 1 down with some examples. Okay, the first rule of pure functions, the same input always gives the same output. So let's look at this function just called add, a very simple function that accepts two arguments, x and y, and it adds those together. Now, if we log this to the console and we'll call the add function with 2 and 3, you can see we get 5. And it should always be 5. And there's no reason that this wouldn't be. And we're passing in primitives, that primitive data, and so it passes values, so we're not modifying any data, which will be side effects that we talk about in a moment. So this is a pure function, add, and mathematics is an easy way to think about this because it provides pure functions like this. Another function would be full name. This is another simple example here, and I'm providing two arguments, first and last, and then we're using a template literal string to concatenate those into the full name. Now, when we go ahead and log that to the console and we call it with the parameters of my first and last name, you can see we get what's expected, and that's my full name, Dave Gray, and it would always return that value. So these are predictable. The same input always gives the same output. And we can replace the function with the output itself. And this is called referential transparency. And it's very important for pure functions. That's what makes these easy to test and easy to debug. A pure function should have at least one parameter. Let's call this rule 1a because it's not usually listed as a rule of pure functions, but I will show you why you want to consider this. Otherwise, it's really the same as just a constant because a pure function can only work with the input that it receives. So consider this function, first name, and it just simply returns my first name. Well, we might as well just define that as a constant, say const first name equals Dave, because it provides the same thing. A pure function should not work with any data that is not provided as an input parameter, really. So this would be the same, and so you can see why a pure function should have at least one parameter. Okay, rule number 2 for pure functions, and that is no side effects. This could take just a little longer to understand all the possibilities of side effects. So let's look at some examples. And this also means accessing the scope outside the function makes it impure. So here's an example where I define z equal to 5 outside the function sum, but then notice how I reference z inside the function. This is totally possible in JavaScript. We're just accessing the global scope here, and in a function you can access the lexical scope that is outside of the function. But this makes it impure. So when we go ahead and call this function sum with 2 and 2 for the parameters x and y, and we save the file, we get 9 because the function still has access to the value of z because it's inside the lexical scope. It's actually outside the function, but that makes this function impure. So pure functions cannot access a database, an API, file system, storage, other parts of the network, etc. And they can also not modify the DOM. And they can't even really log to the console because that's doing something outside of the function itself. And so that said, clearly impure functions are necessary because they're harder to test and debug. But that doesn't mean impure functions are bad. Clearly we need to modify the DOM at times, and clearly we need to access a database or an API or the file system. So impure functions aren't bad, they're just harder to test and debug. And from that, we need to say no input state can be modified when we're writing a pure function. And that means no data should be mutated. And that also means you should consider all the input data to the function to be immutable when you're writing a pure function. Let's look at some examples. Let's look at this first example of an impure function where I'm defining the variable x equal to 1, and then I'm incrementing the variable and by calling the function increment, but this breaks all the rules of pure functions. Let's go ahead and call increment, and then we'll log x to the console. And you can see after we call increment, we are logging 2, and then we check the value of x on the next line, and the value is 2. So we mutated the state of the x variable. It's now equal to 2. And our increment function also reached outside of the function to reference the value of x, or to reference the variable itself actually. And that is what increased the value of x to 2. Now what we would want is a function that would return a value without incrementing the actual variable x. We don't want to mutate x, but we do want to return a new value. So this is an impure function. It breaks both rules there. We don't pass in x, and then we also mutate the value of x. Next example, we've got my array equal to an array that just has the numbers 1, 2, 3, and we have a function called add to array. And this function receives an array and data as parameters, as arguments. And now we reference the array and we push the data to the array. Then we return the array. And now we'll call the add to array function and pass in my array and a new number, the number 4, and then we'll check the value of the original array and see what elements are in that. So if we save this and look over here in the console, you can see that we returned an array with 1, 2, 3, 4, but unfortunately the original array, my array, was mutated, and it also now has a 4th element. And you don't want to do that. Now an array is structural data versus primitive data from our first example, but you don't want to mutate the structural data either, and we did that. So this is also an impure function. Now let's look at how we can refactor these functions as pure functions. In our first refactoring example, we are now using a function called pure increment instead of increment, and it receives one parameter, as we would expect for a pure function to receive at least one parameter, and that parameter is a number, and then we increment the number, but we're not changing the value of what is actually sent into the function. So we'll call pure increment on x, and then we'll go ahead and log x to the console. You can see the result of pure increment x on line 186 is 3, but once we check the value of x itself, x is still 2. And this is primitive data. We've got a variable with the value of 2, and primitive data passes values. And so that is why this works. And if you're not familiar with those, I'm going to reference a video and link to it in the description as well, where I really compare shallow copy and deep copy. However, I discuss primitive and structural data in that video tutorial as well. Okay, let's look at our second refactored example. And in this refactored example, we have a function called pure add to array. I guess I'll scroll back down a little so you can see the original there. And so the original's at the top, but now we have pure add to array that receives an array and it receives the data. And then we just return a new array using the spread operator, and then we add in the data. So it's a new element in this array, but this is a new array. So once we call this on the next line with my array and the number 5, we'll see what we get there, and then we'll compare by logging my array to the console. And if we save this, you can see the pure add to array returns a new array with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but the original my array still only has 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we did not mutate the data. So this is another example of a pure function. So note, if you did miss my previous tutorial on shallow copy versus deep copy, you'll want to check that out, because the refactored example 2 above will not work if it is a nested data structure. If the original array we're passing in has nested data, you need to make a deep copy. And I show you how to do that in that tutorial that I will show up above right now. And of course, I'm going to link to it in the description as well. And then also notice how pure functions always return something. This isn't one of the rules that is always listed for pure functions. However, if you're not returning something, you definitely do not have a pure function. So that is one easy way to tell if you have a pure function or not, or it doesn't necessarily mean you have a pure function when you return something, but if you're not returning something, you definitely do not have a pure function. You may have already been working with some great examples of pure functions and not realized it. So some common higher order functions are pure functions. And so I'm going to start out with this array that just is called 1 to 5, and it has the numbers 1 through 5. And then I'm going to define odd to 5 and use 1 to 5 with the filter method on the array. And you can see that I plan on returning the odd numbers. So if I go ahead and save this, now odd to 5 just returned 1, 3, and 5. That's a new array with just the odd numbers. And now let's look at another example. I'm defining doubled, and I'm calling the map method on my 1 to 5 array. And now I'm multiplying each element in 1 to 5 by 2. And then I'm going to log doubled. And when I save this, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So the numbers 1 through 5 have each been doubled, and they're in a new array. And then once again, I'm going to define summed, and I'm going to call reduce on 1 to 5. Now reduce receives not just the element of the array, but also an accumulator. And then we add the accumulator and each element of the array, so it totals them up. And then I'm going to log summed to the console as well. And you can see I get the number 15. So if we come back and just log the original 1 to 5 array, and I save that, you can see it is still the original array, 1 through 5. So all of these higher order functions that you may have already been using all follow those rules of pure functions. They're returning a new value or a new array. They're not modifying the original. And so that's kind of what pure functions are all about. And if you're not familiar with these higher order functions, I do have a tutorial for those as well that I shall link to above and put a link in the description below. Just a quick review of the rules for pure functions before we finish. And the first one is the same input always gives the same output. That is, you should be able to replace the function with the output and your application would still work. And that is referential transparency. And then no side effects, which means no mutations. You do not mutate the global state. You do not even really access anything outside of the function. And the input parameters you give to the function should not be mutated in any way. So if you pass in a new object or array, you should I mean, if you pass in an object or array, you should be returning a new object or array if you're doing anything to it, because you should not modify those structural data types that you pass in, or even just any variable value you pass in. You should always return something new. Do not mutate the inputs. And overall, the goal when you're working with pure functions and kind of thinking along this functional programming mindset is to write small pure functions. And when you can do that, it helps your code be clean. It's easy to test and easy to debug. So while you don't have to adopt every aspect of functional programming, and believe me, there's much more to learn about functional programming, it is good to approach your functions in this manner when possible. Hey, thank you so much for watching and subscribing. The channel is growing. I appreciate the comments every week, and I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll talk to you again very soon.